Hey guys, this is We Prepare, and today we are interviewing Arya Nalluri from Yale.
At Yale, we stay in these dorms that they call them residential colleges, but really that's a fancy way of saying dorms. And they're physically separated from each other. So within the first 2 weeks, you have to quarantine there. And you get very close to your own dorm, but you don't get the opportunity to meet a lot of people, which kind of sucks. But I think being on campus and seeing all the buildings, we still got to go into libraries, all of that was really cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we still just have a couple more people left to join. Also, we might have to skip some questions, so I'll just let you know if we're starting to run low on time, and then maybe if you can just have some shorter answers or anything, just a quick summarization, just depending on how long it takes for you.
Sure.
I think we can start now. So I'll just start. And is it okay if we record this?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And then
Thank you.
so just first of all, just to everyone watching, this is Arya Nalluri. He's a NIQA alumni, and he was a leader of a lot of extracurriculars I remember from my freshman year. And yeah, he's at Yale right now. So I think Daniel will start off with some questions about college life.
Thank you, Arya, for doing this. I think we're gonna start with questions about college life, which is it's glitching. So when did you start visiting colleges? When did you start going on college visits to see them?
Junior year over spring break, that's when I did the college tours then. But I think anytime before the application process is also fine. I know some of my friends went very, very early, but I think the closer you are to starting it, the more you have an idea of what you're looking for.
All right, thank you. So how'd you know that Yale was the right one for you? How'd you decide on that?
Yeah. I mean, I had a general idea that I knew I wanted to do something with law or humanities or history, things like that. But when I went on campus, I immediately loved it because it's such a cool place to be. But from what I heard about the culture of the school, it was Yale was a place that was a bit more collaborative than it was competitive, and that was something I was really looking for. I think a lot of schools, I know NIQA definitely has a tendency to be like this, and a lot of Ivy Leagues too. It's more so you have to work against other people to try to get ahead, and I appreciated that Yale's environment wasn't so much like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. And what is living at Yale like?
So I've only been there for one semester. I'm currently at home, spending second semester at home, and I've not been there during a non-COVID year, so I won't say that. But my time at Yale was really cool. A lot of the people there, I definitely met a bigger diversity of people than I met living in Naperville, and that was one of the things I think was most exciting to me about college life. You meet people from all sorts of different backgrounds, and that's something you don't really get to experience when you go to a school that's in an area like Naperville itself. I think that was one of the most exciting things. Also, there's the access to the library, all sorts of campus things. And New Haven itself is a very cool city. It's tons of super cool restaurants that are literally just a walk, a short distance away. And that was also a lot of fun to do.
All right, thank you. I think we're gonna move on to someone else now.
Or actually, before we move on, I was just wondering, shotgunning colleges. How do you visit when you might apply to so many colleges? Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, I feel like you could be applying to so many colleges. So when you're visiting, how do you even know oh, this one will accept me, or or whatever will happen? This school might not even be interested in having me there.
So when you go to visit schools, how do you decide which schools to visit? Or
Yeah, because I feel like if you're because on your list there's so many schools, but I feel like you can't visit all of them, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want it to be a waste of time, or
That's true. Well, what I did is I had a good idea of okay, I wanted to go into let's say economics, and I looked at my economics major, and I looked like, okay, what are good schools for economics? What are good schools in my like range of test scores and things like that? And I made a short list, and then I went through and read about the schools online. They've got a lot of information online that you don't even really have to visit to figure out. And visiting was just sort of a way to prioritize within the list. So making the list itself of colleges I want to visit, my list was about 10 schools long, other people's were longer or shorter. I made that list by going on websites and talking to people. And I think that's really all the information you need to make that list. To prioritize for like, okay, really want to go here, or I want to spend a lot of time with this application, then I'd say going look at your list and looking at, what's the most feasible. A lot of my schools were East Coast, so we did sort of one trip to the East Coast, and that made it pretty easy. If you had a lot of schools in the area, that also makes it pretty easy too.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for that. So I have a couple questions about college like applications. So how many colleges did you apply to?
So I applied early action to Yale, and I knew that I wanted to get into Yale, or I wanted to go to Yale if I had the opportunity to get in. So in early action, I applied for University of Michigan, University of Illinois, and applied to Yale as well. I got through Yale in the early application process. And so for the regular decision process, I applied to only one other school, but that was only because I already finished the application. So my parents encouraged me to send it in just in case I decided I want to go there instead. But if I hadn't gone through the Yale, I would have probably applied to about 10 schools.
And if like everything didn't so did you also have reach schools, like target schools and safety schools?
Yeah, I think whenever people use those terms, it's definitely a good idea to think about it. Like, what are schools that you're sure can get into? What are schools that you believe is like a good fit for you? And what are schools that, if you had the opportunity to go there, you would? I think every school you're applying to should be one that you'd be happy to go to. If you got in, you'd be happy to go to that school. For me, I was applying to some not so competitive majors at the University of Illinois. Their computer science program's a lot more competitive. I was not applying for that. And so that was for me one of my safety schools, you could say. But if I was going to U of I, I'd still be very happy to go to that school. And for a reach school, I was lucky in that, Yale was my dream school when I was applying, and that for me was a reach, because for a lot of these very competitive schools, even if you have, great grades or whatever, or a good resume, it still comes down to a little bit of luck and just how you come across in your essays. As far as target schools, I think that was just sort of everything else that fell in between both of those.
Thank you.
Matthew, I think this is... Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, I'm asking, so how did you apply for a lot of scholarships? How did you really manage with that?
So yeah, scholarships is one thing that I definitely panicked about my senior year. What I did is, the summer going into senior year, I did a program called Boys State, and that's something you learn about through Gov class, and they add some scholarships through there. I also did the National Merit Scholarships, and as far as for other smaller ones, I applied to some of them throughout the college application season. It was definitely harder to prioritize them because, I was very focused on getting into college, and then the second priority was how to pay for that. But there are a lot of websites and a lot of opportunities to find scholarships for people that are maybe within your ethnicity or demographic or your location and things like that, or even for the major you're looking for. Even if you just Google some, it's pretty easy to find them. And I know there are lots of platforms that help you match with certain scholarships.
Yeah, depending on our age now, how much time would you say we should spend on looking for scholarships, applying for scholarships at the current moment?
What's the current, so where are you guys right now? Is sophomores, I'm guessing?
Yeah. Sophomore, freshman?
Sophomore, freshman. When I was a freshman and a sophomore, I definitely panicked and thought a lot more about college than I think I should have. I remember I was like when I was in sixth grade, people were panicking and talking about colleges. Like that's a crazy early time to start thinking. And I know a lot of people only recommend you start junior year. A lot of people recommend you start as early as sixth grade. There isn't really a golden time for you to start. Personally, I'd say right now, focus on yourself, focus on doing well in school, and maybe focusing on being engaged in your extracurriculars. And you can start thinking about more of the specifics of college when you get into junior year, maybe thinking about where do you want to go, where would you be happy as a student? The reason I say that is because, at sophomore year, I changed a lot. Like freshman to sophomore to junior year, I was definitely three very distinct people. And so whatever I would have wanted as a sophomore definitely was not what I wanted as a junior. So to make a big decision about where you want to go to college or what you want to apply to as a sophomore is sort of like, you're definitely going to change that as a junior. In terms of how much time you want to spend thinking about and applying to scholarships, there's not a lot of scholarships you can apply to as a sophomore. So even if you spend a lot of time, I don't know if you're going to get a lot out of it. I hope that answers the question. I don't know if it did. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it actually did. Yeah, even on top of all of that, did you actually apply for any financial aid?
Yeah, I applied to financial aid through Yale. The cool thing about Yale and a lot of Ivy League universities, a lot of universities that are very selective, is that they've got really good aid programs for people that need it. I know they provide a lot of need-based aid for a lot of different schools. When it comes to highly selective schools, they don't provide, I know Ivy Leagues don't at all provide any merit-based scholarships, because if you're getting there, you probably would have already earned a merit-based scholarship in some sort of field. But for a lot of other schools, scholarships and the way you're going to pay for them is a big consideration. For some people, the amount of time you want to spend on scholarships is also dependent on your own personal financial situation or your family's financial situation. For a lot of my friends, I know that for their majors, it made a lot more sense to not really apply to a super competitive school, but just go to a school that's more affordable for them. I know a lot of people that are planning on going into engineering, computer science. I know those fields are maybe not so as dependent on where you go to school, but so much as like, do you have a degree, and then what experience do you have in the field? So I think those are some different considerations you should have when considering what schools to apply to in terms of financial aid.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, just like, I think your input on just thinking about college that much during sophomore and freshman year, I think that was really helpful. But I just think a lot of us, we're just trying to learn about the process, so then we can kind of know what kind of story that we'll be building, just so we can be aware. And I appreciate you being here and helping us figure that out too. And I just the next part we're gonna go into is just a couple questions about extracurriculars. I know you were part of Rho Kappa and Model UN and Stuka. I remember you being in those and probably more. So how'd you kind of balance those out with your schoolwork and having to do a lot of APs probably in junior and senior year?
I will say I definitely overdid it. So by the time I was a senior, I was leading 5 clubs and I was involved in a very AP heavy base schedule. And as much as that sounds like, oh, he's got a great college resume, it also took a big toll on my mental health. And I think that's something that a lot of people underestimate whenever they're going into college application season. I think I regret spending as much time as I did in extracurriculars in school and not focusing on myself as a person. Mental health issues are something that are still very important to me, and it's something that, it's something that I've been working with for a long time. And so when it comes to balance, I think it's okay to take time for yourself. That's the biggest thing. It's okay to take time to do fun, silly things that aren't going to go on a resume, or things that, are literally just for the sake of doing them. All that stuff is okay to do. Balancing extracurriculars in school. For me, school was always had to be the priority. But for a lot of extracurriculars, the reason why I think I was able to do them successfully was because I genuinely enjoyed doing them. Freshman, sophomore year, I was joining a lot of things just because I thought it looked good in a college resume. And the junior year, I realized that all those things I joined, I absolutely hated. I joined Mu Alpha Theta my sophomore year because I thought it would look good on a resume. And I quit junior year because I was like, this is not for me. It is for some people, it was definitely not for me. Don't do something just for a resume. Honestly, it's not worth it. You're gonna end up unhappy, and at the end of the day, it's only gonna look good on a resume if you can passionately talk about it. And I think that's a pretty key thing in choosing your extracurriculars. In terms of balance between the two, I don't really have any novel advice other than, organization, Google Calendar, using a to-do list. I was a big to-do list and time organization guy. I still am. On like the screen next to me, I felt like a calendar for the next week or so of classes. That was what I focused on balancing. By the time I got to senior year, I felt like I was good enough at like studying and schoolwork that I didn't have to concern myself with that as much. And I was able to focus more on my extracurriculars.
I have a question about the extracurricular. Do you think it matters a lot if you're gonna take the leader role in your extracurricular activities?
No, I don't think it does. I think one of the reasons why leadership is so overvalued, I have a lot of thoughts on leadership in clubs because I spent so much time chasing leadership roles. By the time I got to senior year, I thought it's a little bit overblown. You spend a lot of time concerning yourself with leadership roles because when you put it down on a resume, like member versus leader, one definitely sounds better than the other. In terms of the actual experience it gives you, I don't think there's a lot. I think, the thing you should prioritize in your extracurricular is how much time do I want to devote to this? Am I really passionate about it? If you're really passionate about something and you want to devote more time to it, and you feel like you can make the club better by being a leader, go for it. If you feel like your talents are better spent being in the background, but still spending a lot of time working with other people, I think that's also something that's valuable to have. Not everybody's a leader. Other people are better suited for different things, and that's totally okay. If leadership you don't feel like that's right for you. If you do feel like you want to be a leader, that's great. Totally go for it.
All right, thank you. I feel like right now, as a sophomore, I'm kind of like also in that role of like trying to like chase after some leadership as I'm going into junior year, especially for like Model UN. And then I just know like a lot of clubs have like awards, but like I don't really know how well or like how to really get those awards, especially in Model UN, because like I'm in Simon still, and like I know that like some other schools, they really dominate those like awards. It's so hard.
Yeah, it is. Specific to Model UN itself, Nico's Model UN program is underdeveloped, I'd say. I feel like just the way that it's structured means that Nico has a lot to catch up with when it comes to facing against other schools. And I don't know how true it is for other clubs because I know Nico tends to dominate in a lot of other things. But specific to Model UN, the awards in the conferences actually don't really matter. When you get to applying for college and you like open up Common App, there's a space for 5 awards. That's it, like 5 maximum. You can't put any more than that. So if you want to get a ton of awards, that's great, but know that it's only going to be 5. And some of those are taken up by like AP Scholar, which is if you take a certain number of AP tests. Some of those are taken up by National Merit. Some of those might be Nico Pride Awards and things like that. These are all things that people put in the college application that definitely to them are more worthy of putting on than something that they spent time on in Model UN.
All right, thank you. And then yeah.
And then I guess just continuing on the idea of extracurriculars, and I know you briefly mentioned this before, but so, I mean, you took a lot of extracurriculars, so would you say that the specific extracurricular you take is important, or simply like if you can find a club that you're passionate about and you can really invest yourself in, then it doesn't matter what club that is?
I mean, yeah, I'd say the extracurricular you involve yourself in is important in that it is like you're passionate about it. Like, I think it's more important to do a club that you're passionate about than a club that looks good in a resume. Because frankly, as much as we like to think we know what college admissions counselors are looking for, we don't. Like the most we know is that you're looking for someone that's passionate, like really passionate. Like they're looking for somebody that's passionate about something, is able to bring that passion to their school, and bring their passion beyond school into the real world. And let's say you're really passionate about. For me, I was really passionate about social studies and humanities. That was something I really liked talking about. I still really love talking about law, and I'm taking a lot of courses, like next semester, to talk about those sorts of things. I joined Mu Alpha Theta because I thought, if I want to go into economics, I need a math-related extracurricular. Not worth it. Just not worth it. Just if you're not passionate about it, you're gonna hate it being there, and it's much better to invest yourself in something that you really enjoy. And I think that's also important in learning what you want to do in the future, because college is like not the end of the line. I'm realizing this now as a freshman. I put so much time on college applications that now that I'm here, it's like, wow, there's so much left in life that I've still yet to experience. And I think I put a lot more emphasis on where college applications was going to end me, like where college applications was going to send me, than I think I realized.
And then also, so what kind of opportunities do you think being in like these sorts of clubs would give someone other than just a means of getting into college?
Certainly, definitely a means of understanding what career you want to go into, or maybe what you enjoy doing as a person. I know in student council, senior year, I got the opportunity to lead student council, and I realized that I love being a leader and being in front of the room and talking to a lot of people and like being extravagant and performative and doing all these sorts of things that involve in spirit. I love that. And I would never have been able to understand that I love doing that if I had not been in student council. And I think being in extracurriculars opens so many more doors than just college. It helps you understand who you are as a person outside of just the classroom, because the classroom is a pretty limiting environment.
And then I guess moving a bit past the just clubs and other stuff. So how did you, well, first of all, did you do any internships? And if you did, how did you find them?
I did a internship with the Lauren Underwood congressional campaign in 2016, or 2018, not 2016. That was going into my junior year. I did one internship, and it was a very interesting process because the Lauren Underwood campaign hadn't really set up a program for internships. But what happened is that I was really interested in Underwood. I really liked her policies. I met her once at this event through like a family friend, and I was like, I really want to work with this person. They did not have an internship program set up, but I literally emailed them like 3 separate times with my resume. Definitely more than 3 times, with like asking like, hey, is there an opportunity to work with you guys, or something like this. And eventually they gave in. They're like, yeah, come down here and start working. And so like that's what I did, and it was a cool experience. The work I did was a little bit boring at times, sort of being involved in the political process, and I got to talk to Lauren Underwood a lot. That was all a really cool thing to do, and it also sort of made me realize I don't really love politics. As valuable as things are for learning that you want to do them, they're also valuable for learning that you might not want to do them.
So you think we should be a bit more proactive with finding opportunities and just waiting for them to come to us?
Yeah, I mean, like that's the same with internships, that's the same with everything in life.
And also, were you involved with any like summer camps or volunteer work during your time in high school?
Volunteer work, I did sparingly, but I didn't do so much that I say it's a big part of my high school experience. Summer camps, I did Boys State going into my senior year, and that was a lot of fun. And also going into my junior year, I did something at Chicago on American litigation and law. That was something I was interested in, and it's probably the reason why I want to go to law school now. So a lot of universities nearby have really cool camps. The application programs are a bit competitive. You do need recommendations. but they also do offer financial aid for a little more of the expense. And those are also all things that I really enjoy doing.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait, before we move on, I was just wondering, like, I don't think NIQA has a congressional debate club. Do you think that, like, it would be possible for me to like start one? Like, I don't know if speech like encompasses like a congressional debate, or like kind of like counts, because like I feel like congressional debate is like, we should have a club for that, especially at NIQA.
Yeah, so I'll say for one thing, speech does not have anything close to debate. Youth in government, I'd say it's the closest congressional debate you're going to find, other than I think JSA, which I don't know if it's affiliated with NIQA anymore or if it's like a neighborhood-based thing. But starting clubs at NIQA is very hard. You have to get a sponsor, so a teacher that's willing to take time out of their day to like sit with a bunch of high schoolers and do whatever they want to do. You will have to get approval from administration, and now the NIQA has well over, I think, 100 clubs. Maybe not that many, but like it has a lot of clubs. It's really hard to start another one up, because you have to demonstrate that there is a real need for the club itself at the school. And thirdly, you have to find enough people that the club's not going to flounder within the first few years. I remember hearing that NIQA had a debate team that happened for 1 year, years before I even came to the school. And I have no idea what happened to it. If you want to start a congressional debate thing, I think that's super exciting to do. But I'd say first look into what already exists at NIQA. And if you can find like there is a real need for this and there's a real benefit to having it at the school, then I'd say you can start contacting administration and teachers to see, is there anybody interested to help you out?
All right, thank you. Yeah, I feel like from the viewpoint of like the administration, like congressional debate is just like like to their eyes. I really think. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'd suppose as somebody who doesn't have experience in either way will look at them pretty similar, and they are pretty similar in a lot of different ways. But the format of the topic and the way you go presenting there's a bit more involved, let's say, youth in government, involved in the not just the debate side, but everything else, not other than the debate itself.
I think this is Daniel's, if he's here.
I'm here, but I don't think it's mine, because I was only doing college life.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. So like, what was your kind of like spike throughout high school, and then like, how did you like develop that, if you had one?
What was that?
Your spike.
Spike throughout high school. What do you mean by that?
Like your like main like thing that you like really invested time in.
Oh, like what was my main interest?
Yeah, your main interest.
Yeah, that was like social studies, politics-esque. I gotta say, it was a lot of luck. I'm not gonna like lie and say that I knew exactly what I wanted to do from freshman year. What happened is I went into freshman year. There was a senior that I really looked up to because it was like a friend's older brother or something. And I was like, this guy seems really cool. And he's like, oh, join these clubs. And I joined the clubs, and then they ended up being clubs that I really enjoyed. Freshman year, I joined Youth in Government, Model UN, and Speech. And these three clubs all had to do with politics and things like that. I found I had a knack for talking about law and understanding and thinking about social topics. And I just sort of followed that path and ended up doing more involved with that. My internships and clubs were all really involved with exploring that field. But that being said, I know that's not the experience for everyone. A lot of people don't really know what they want to do until later on. I have one friend that freshman year, he started out thinking he wanted to go into medicine, and then he switched to like every career possible until junior year. He decided to want to go into more politics too. And now that he's in college, he's thinking about finance. Developing your spike when it comes to college is a tricky thing, because it seems like you're like picking out your entire life plan right there as a junior. You always have a lot of opportunity to change in high school, but what I'd say is maybe take high school as an opportunity to explore. And if you find something that you seem to be interested in, you can pull your time and resources towards that. And once you get into college, and if you feel like a spike is really necessary to do that, then this college is an even broader place to explore and understand new things.
also just like a part of college applications. I know that teacher recommendations are very important. How did you kind of like just like create those connections with your teachers?
So the teachers I asked for my recommendation were two teachers from my junior year. They were an English teacher and they were a math teacher. How did I develop those connections? I wish I had a better answer than it came naturally. Like these are teachers that I really liked and I really enjoyed their classes, so I tended to participate a lot in them. I tended to ask questions about the material after the class, and I went to like it's not called office hours in high school, it's like the ARC. I went to the ARC and like talked to them about concerns I had and things like that about the class itself. And their classes I generally did pretty well in. And so those are some pretty easy ways to develop those connections.
Wait, if you don't mind me asking, which teachers did you have?
Mrs. Devesic for AP English 3 and Mr. Yanish, who retired last year. He taught Calc BC.
Oh, that's actually really funny because we had Tyler on recently. You know Tyler Chen, yeah. And then we kind of asked him about some of these questions too, and then he also brought up Mr. Yanish. He was like, "Yeah, Mr. Yanish retired too." That's actually really funny.
Mr. Yanish is great. Yeah, I'm definitely not surprised that Tyler had him to recommend her.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited as a junior to be going in because I know a lot of the teachers are really good junior year.
Yeah, I found junior year was like the best teachers I've had in Equa were junior year. Not to say that teachers the other year weren't, but a lot of my favorite teachers came from junior year.
So I have a question, like more generally. So after we talk all about like the college life, the college apps, and the financial stuff, like if you have, in your opinion, have you like make a conclusion about the top 3 things that are most important during like a college application, what would you say?
Like to put in the college application, or
like during the college application, what are the 3 things you think are the most important?
Like during the season, you mean?
Yeah.
It's difficult choosing 3 because there's a lot of things that's...
Yeah, I know it's a difficult question.
I'd say first thing is be comfortable with introspection. You're gonna have to spend a lot of time thinking about yourself and who you are. And when you want to write, if you want to write a good essay, it has to be genuine. You can't be superficial with it. And I think the more time you spend thinking about who you are as a person and where you want to go, the better those things are going to come out. Secondly, time management is really important. The first semester senior year is definitely, I think, the most difficult part of high school. A lot of people say junior year until they get to first semester of senior year, because you're balancing harder classes as well as college applications. So you have to be really good at time management. And finally, being okay with accepting failure, because no matter how hard you work, sometimes things don't work out. Frankly, I think I got lucky with college application, and I did work hard to get to where I am, but a lot of it is also luck. And very easily, it could not have happened, and I would have to deal with it. And I think accepting that not getting into a school or not getting something you want is not a reflection on who you are as a person is very important.
Yeah, I think that's pretty useful, just to think about who you are as a person.
Okay, I think Jeff was supposed to take these questions, but I know we're running close to the 40-minute time limit, so we just had a few more questions, just like one about SATs and ACTs, and just like one about like when you started writing your college essays and like you like kind of like story building for yourself. So I guess we'll start with the SATs and like the ACTs. So if you just have like anything to say about those, like.
I took the SAT. I was more comfortable with the SAT, and I knew I could get a higher score in it. For ACT, some people took that, and they think they can get a higher score in that. Whichever one you feel you're more comfortable with. I'd say take both sophomore year. You guys are probably in a good range to do it. See which one is easier. Practice for a few months, and then you can easily get a high score. Practice is literally just taking practice tests. I don't know if a tutor is worth it. I went to a tutor once, and I didn't like it because all it was just they give you practice tests and they tell you why you're wrong, and you can get that from a book too. So. That's what I have to say about SAT, ACT.
Oh, nice. And then we just had one more about college essays and like time management and like how you kind of like wrote your own story that you wanted the admission officers to like see.
So in terms of college essays, I started writing them going into my senior year. Common App releases their essay questions the earliest, while a lot of other schools release their supplemental questions about halfway through the summer. So even if you want to start earlier, you can't. I started thinking about my Common App, and I went through, I think, 5 different ideas before I got one I liked. 5 is, I think, on the lower end of numbers. Some people go through many, some people go through very few. And each of these 5 ideas, I had countless drafts and lots of different ideas and time spent into them. My Common App essay was definitely one I spent the most time on. I ended up talking about this bookcase right here because I've had it since I was a kid, and it's like the books in it are just filled with the books I read since I was a kid. And so I talked about what books are in there. Building a story with a Common App is hard because you sort of have to crunch your entire life into there. But I think what you sort of want to get across is the most important thing is, would somebody read this for fun? Like, is this an interesting enough essay that someone would read this for fun? If the answer is no, don't write it. If the answer is yes, then keep talking about it and see, okay, how can I get a better, like, how can I pack more of myself in there? Writing tutors, English teachers are very helpful. Definitely, I reached out to Mrs. Debesic, and she also helped me find another teacher too, both of whom were very, very helpful in refining and like trimming down my college essays to what I wanted them to be. I think they're an invaluable resource. In terms of finding what story you want to tell, that also takes a lot of introspection. Like, that's the biggest thing. You got to think about yourself. You got to think about your past years. Think about who you are as a person, and think about one of the most interesting experiences you have in high school. And that's another reason why I think you should spend more time on yourself in high school. Because if your entirety of high school has been spent in a classroom and doing clubs, when it comes to writing an essay, what are you going to write about that is in a classroom or in a club? You need to be a person outside of those things.
I really like that kind of insight, because you described to not focus rather on this, like what you do in school, rather who you are and like your personality, what you do outside of it, and how you achieve that. And so, working on that, take yourself back in high school. What do you think we should look forward or look towards to?
Like, what is something to look forward to?
Like, what are things that we should be careful about looking forward to? Like, what are some precautions that you think we should take towards the future?
I'd say, I mentioned this before, college is not the end of the road. What that means is that if you find yourself in a really great school that you wanted to get into, that's great. If you find yourself in a school you didn't want to get into, I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, they're not the end of the road. So if you get into college, whatever college you end up into, you're still going to have to keep moving forward. And I think there's a lot of sense of finality, and like, oh, if I don't get into this college, my life is over. That is absolutely not true. I think you might not even have to go to college depending on the field you want to go to, but getting into college is not, I think I made it out to be a bigger deal than it actually is. Because I'm very happy with where I am right now, but I still know that I have a lot to work towards. And somebody that maybe wouldn't be going to an Ivy League, or somebody that went to a school for financial aid, maybe that's less selective, they, I think, also have really just as good of a chance as doing well in the future as I do. It's all up to what you make of the opportunities you're given. So I think, to sum that up, college applications are not the end of the world. They're important, yes. They're not the end of the world.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you. Just to like wrap this whole thing up, I feel like in our bubble of like sophomore year entering into junior year, we can like get really absorbed into this like high school, like college kind of like worry. And I feel like having the Zoom here really helped us personally, because I kind of like realized that like this is just a short 4 years leading to another short
focus on ourselves as a person rather than to be very straightforward. He told us to be dynamic, and I will take that advice to heart.
Thank you guys very much. I'm glad. I'm glad that that's what you took away, because I think if there's one thing I wanted to impart, it's that they're important, but the most important thing to focus on is who you are as a person, and that's going to last long after